Greetings, this is Griff Ruby with the next installment of Isaac Asimov's short stories. Well, 1 month later, immediately upon the heels of his first Foundation installment, there is the second one. This case, he gets the cover, so for the second time, he is now on the cover of Astounding Science Fiction. On here is a scene from this story. You can actually see inside here, this back of a person, that's Salvor Hardin, in this kind of personal force field. You could fire him with a blaster and it'll just bounce off. It's pretty cool. And he's sitting in the chair with this thing. I guess that's a little Atomos bulb there. Another one of these little pieces of hardware that you hear mentioned. Atomos this, Atomos bulbs, Atomos other things. That's kind of cool. Now another thing here, this guy over here is Wyanus, whose son, right here, is the commander of one of this whole fleet of ships, including one that the Foundation had actually just fixed up for Anacreon, and now suddenly is being sent to bomb the hell out of the Foundation. But it can't be that way because this other guy here behind him is saying, "I'm going to tell you what to say." This guy back here, I think, is Theo Apparat, and this is this whole window here. This is like a view screen so that Wyanus and Hardin can see what's happening on board this spaceship headed towards the Foundation to blow it all up. So, once again, this section, as a standalone section, has a few, not so many, but a few things that are distinctive to itself that you don't see, obviously, in the book or any place it gets gathered. The book being Foundation, first volume. This is the Doubleday edition. So, well, once again, it's not only on the cover, it's right there, heading up the first thing listed, Bridle and Saddle, Isaac Asimov, page 9. And once again, there's a little blurb here. It says, given a foundation with wealth, strategic position, and no arms in a warring region of space. To protect it, well, okay. So what's turned out to be protected is that there were a couple things that we hear. First is inside the story, and it's built into the story rather than as like a, here's a recap from the before. He builds the recaps into the story, so that, at least in most cases, you don't need a recap of the story. In some later installments, you'll see there's some recaps that the editors had to provide or come up with. But generally speaking, Asimov tried to incorporate as much of the backstories into the story itself. In this case, there really isn't much other than this new guy, Seth Cermak, and a few of his buddies come in to talk with a now much older Salvor Hardin. And they want to try to overthrow everything again. Salvor Hardin overthrew the encyclopedists. Now we're going to overthrow you. And Salvor Hardin's, no, you're not. So, but he's explained. Now let's review what happened. And now you kind of get a glimpse of what happened. Terminus is all by itself. It can't get any help from the Empire. Anacreon wants to annex it. What did we do? And then, oh, by the way, and here's the answer. So that's kind of a cool thing. Like I said, put it in a book, it all reads sequentially, and you can see the problem, and as you go on reading, there was the solution. A somewhat odd place to present it, but it all proceeds. Well, here, having done that, we have several different things on here. We have a blurb on the main page. So this is the main page here. Bridle and Saddle, and there's an illustration. Let's take a look at this illustration. I've concluded that this is actually a picture. This little lone figure here is Polyverisov. So he's kind of like the archbishop, if you will, of this church that Hardin had been creating on Anacreon and its various planets that are part of its kingdom. And basically, they give you the technology and how to work it, but they don't explain how it works, what it really does. So they don't understand it, but they know how to operate it, as long as they surround it with all this mummery that had nothing to do with why this device does this or that one does that. But the idea was to give them the means for a good standard of living. So, Terminus is valuable to them now as a living prize. But at the same time, this religion keeps them from just moving in and taking all the technology and the ideas for themselves. And that's part of how all this is done. We have a few other pictures in here, which is kind of cool. We have a picture here. Now this is Wyanus and Hardin. There's Hardin comfortably seating, drinking a glass of very rare Lockhurst wine, and there's Wyanus, kind of towering over him, like I've got you now, kind of a thing. But he really hasn't. He kind of wanted to be victorious because the last time they met, Salvor Hardin had found a way to drive the Anacreonians off Terminus. So they meet again, and in fact, it's a little that same evening when they turn on their communication and find out what's happened here that I just described. Now, also about the same time, young Leopold is about to be coronated king, and he is being coronated king. Here's the crowd of all the most elite, rich, important citizens, and the throne itself, powered by atomic energy, rises slowly. And then comes the big interdict, wherein the power, everything just gets shut down by technology that they didn't inform the Anacreonians about. Which just goes to show, when you're the one who knows the technology, you're the one who holds the cards, you can make it work or not work, and suddenly it becomes, oh my god, we're in trouble. Well, you are, but even if the reason it's not working is just the power of more technology. There's one other picture in here that's shown. What has happened is that some ship here had found this humongous battle cruiser just left over, floating through space. I don't know where that came from, but there it is. And Anacreon had this, and they said, we'd like you, the Foundation, to fix it up for us. And the Foundation, Hardin says, yeah, let's fix it up for them, all right. And everyone's really mad at him for this. But he's rigged it up special. Yes, it's a very impressive and powerful battleship. You just see it's covered with all these different little guns and things pointing in all directions, and that's just a tiny piece of it. So, it's a huge battleship type of spaceship. But he fixed it up his way. Basically, with a command of the interdict, the whole thing goes dark, except for one little atomobolt carried by Theo Apparat, the resident priest of the religion. The guy there right behind this is son there. Okay. Is that it? I think that's the end. One more. Yeah, that's all pictures. But at any rate, so we have a few more pictures. We had a couple of blurbs. And the textual differences, however, are much more minor. The main thing being, again, an extract from Encyclopedia Galactica has now been added in the book. The Four Kingdoms, the name given to those portions of the province of Anacreon which broke away from the First Empire in the early years of the foundational era to form independent and short-lived kingdoms. The largest and most powerful of these was Anacreon itself, which in area, undoubtedly the most interesting aspect of the history of the Four Kingdoms, involves the strange society forced temporarily upon it during the administration of Salvor Hardin, namely that whole religious society. So, you find some interesting historical things that will draw either from the Edward Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, or again, even a little bit from the New Testament. So at one point, Hardin asked somebody that he was suddenly wondering if he should trust this person. Thou too, Brutus? Yeah. Let's see. is mentioned about a return of the earthly paradise. They meant return of the galactic paradise and fix that. Let's see here. Okay. They actually accused Salvor Hardin of going to Anacreon to collect his 30 pieces of silver. Yeah. And then Palace Guards, Police Guards. Lyanus blistered the air with a muffled oath and rushed. I mean, just there's another little bit of kind of, what do you call it? Somewhat, pulpish language. Okay. Originally, the throne hovered 6 inches off the floor. Later on, it's changed to 5 centimeters. I'm not sure why. At the very end, something kind of interesting happens. Remember, it's called Bridle and Saddle. In the original story, it tells a little story about a man and a horse. And you know what? I think I'm going to find that and look it up to see how it actually reads. Let's see here. Okay. It runs as follows. Hardin is saying this to Lyanus just after it's become clear that Lyanus' fleet has just been incapacitated. A horse, having a wolf as a powerful and dangerous enemy, lived in constant fear of his life. Being driven to desperation, it occurred to him to seek a strong ally, whereupon he approached a man and offered an alliance, pointing out that the wolf was likewise an enemy of the man. The man accepted the partnership and at once and offered to kill the wolf immediately if his new partner would only cooperate by placing his greater speed at the man's disposal. The horse was willing and allowed the man to place the bridle and saddle upon him. The man mounted, hunted down the wolf, and killed him. The horse, joyful and relieved, thanked the man and said, "Now that our enemy is dead, remove your bridle and saddle and restore my freedom." Whereupon the man laughed loudly and replied, "The hell you say? Giddy up, Dobbin," and applied the spurs with a will. Giddy up, Dobbin. Well, suddenly that all gets turned into just never. But somehow you should have the giddy up, Dobbin, because, I mean, the title is about a horse and a guy riding a horse and the whole relationship there. So, let's see here. Nationalism, as it should be called now that the empire has died here in the periphery. Yeah. Somehow that got cut down. Well, anyway, there's really not that much differences. But if you want to read the original, besides the actual print of the magazine itself, it does, curiously enough, show up in Men Against the Stars. And that's actually, it's a gnome press edition. Adventures in Science Fiction series. And it has all these different selections from all these different various science fiction writers. And one of the almost last one is just Bridle and Saddle by Isaac Asimov there, page 281. And again, the table of contents and other publisher blurbs are gone, but the text and the artwork, of course, but the text is all there with all the little tiny differences. I've verified each one of them. So it can be found at least someplace besides that. Anyway, that was Bridle and Saddle, and it's a great story, the way they faked them out. Thanks for watching.